Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine, and this is another unboxing video, and this one is designed purely for John Mayall fans. You've seen recently on the Now Spinning Magazine YouTube channel and on the website that I at last got round to reviewing the first generation giant Madfish box set, which I didn't get to, well, in my time frame, quite recently really. And I did that because I knew that this one was coming in on the horizon. And that first unboxing video looking at the first generation of John Mayall stuff was very popular. And I know some people see these huge box sets as being like overwhelming, but there's not that many of them, and they are a treat for the ears and for the senses, and it's like going on holiday with an artist. I've got quite a few of them and I absolutely love them. The first one I ever bought was Wishbone Ash of the Vintage Years, still my favourite box set of all time. But this one is different in its execution, so I need to point out a few things and kind of really focus on who this is actually aimed at. So this video is going to be split into two main sections. After I've got through this bit where I'm just doing my introduction, I'm going to do an unboxing of it. And when I did the unboxing element of it, I hadn't played anything in the box. I just want to show you what's in it. You know, in the first generation, it was full of lots of stuff. Obviously the hardback book, which is a traditional wonderful thing that Madfish put together. The other one had posters and fan club books and all sorts of things. This one, as I said, is different. Anyway, we're going to look inside the box, and then afterwards I'm going to give you an honest overview on what I think of the sound and what I think of it, who it's aimed for, and you know what could be done differently, if anything at all, if it even needed to be. Anyway, let's dive in and look at John Mayall, the second generation, 30 CDs, all unreleased, all live. So here we go with the second generation of John Mayall. This is Live Magic from 1968 to 1993. So this is the kind of companion video to the first generation, which was the studio albums and some live stuff from 65 to 74. I want to make sure I do this as thoroughly as possible. So you can see the size of the boxes here. I hope you can see that. So the new one is slightly slimmer than the first one, but it still contains 30 CDs. So on the front, at the time of me doing this, because you've seen me do the introduction, and I said I'm going to show you the unboxing, and then I'm going to talk about the actual music, quality, etc. At the end of this. At the time of me doing this part of the video, I haven't played anything. This is purely the unboxing part. By the time I get to the end of this, I will have played it. So it's a limited edition, 30 CD, deluxe box set, tribute to the late blues pioneer, live recordings and 24 shows from 68 to 83. They've got all the, where they're all from there. You've got Mick Taylor, guitar legend, Harvey Mandel, Walter Trout. I know a lot of you will be interested in that because I certainly am. Keith Hartley on drums, all sorts of people. So let's take the lid off. It's made to kind of have a more rustic feel. So whereas those of you who know how Madfish sets function, the lid comes off like an iPhone box. So it's not quite the same, because it has this kind of rustic feel. I'm going to take the hype sticker off now, so you get a feel, and hopefully you can see that the kind of material they've used to give it kind of this kind of bootleg feel. Let's move that out of the way. So the first thing you see is this picture, inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2024 to receive a Musical Influence Award. There's no disputing John Mayall is one of the greats of blues music, from his formation of the Blues Breakers, the band of whom he either embellished or broke the talents of legendary guitarists like Eric Clapton, Peter Green and Mick Taylor, to his enduring career on record and live circuit. It seems his endless list of other greats he was pioneering of the British blues. Underrated guitarist and keyboard player, Mayall was probably the most noted for his mean blues harp skills, and as a band leader driven by both to acknowledge American legends that inspired him and to forge his own unique blues voice from the early 60s right to the last studio release in 2019. Now, the reason why I'm reading this out, so I don't want to rush it because this box set is aimed at really uber John Mayall fans. We at Madfish had the ultimate privilege of working closely with John for both this release and the 2020 box set, the first generation 65 to 74. Both comprehensive appreciations of an amazing career and a labour of love for everybody at Madfish Records. He's sorely missed. John Mayall, OBE. So this has been put in obviously because when they were working on this set, John was still with us. There's also another print of John as well. And then we have the standard but always excellent ginormous hardback books that Madfish do. I'm going to do that in a moment. So I'm going to show you some of the discs first. I'm not going to show you every single one of them because they all basically have the same kind of feel and artwork, so I don't need to do that. And as I say, at the point of me doing this, I haven't played them yet. So they've all got this kind of feel, the same kind of card feel as the lid. So that's kind of the design they have. So you can see here and show you that they're all put together, these little cellophane containers to keep them all together so they don't fly out everywhere when it arrives in the post. But all Madfish sets have this. And there's a ribbon in each one so you can easily get them out. So there's another batch. You can see here, so we've got the names of all the gigs and all the tracks are on the back. I want to try and find a double set if I can. So here's the other ones. So the artwork, let's take one out. So this is one with Walter Trout on. So on the inside of each of them, they're like this. You've got the tracks on the one side and the musician credits on the other. Now, I just wonder if you see this happening, you can see that because of the way that these are made and they're quite wide, that depending on how you hold it, you can have one disc sliding over the other inside, which makes it a bit of a, I'm just pointing this out, a bit of a faff to get them. Now normally with Madfish you do have a white inner sleeve, and on these they've not done that, and so you can see that the sleeves are slightly bigger, and so the disc can roll over into the same compartment, so both CDs can end up on one side. It's not a showstopper, but it's and of course when they're all together in these little compartments, they're not going anywhere. It's only when you take them out that you notice this, and it's only on the double discs. See, it's happening there as I do that. And obviously my job as a reviewer is not just the music. Those of us who really love physical music, the actual physical presentation is an absolute intrinsic part of why we would want a set like this. So that's why I'm pointing that out. Basically, you've got 30 CDs. They're all, I mean, they're not going to fly anywhere. They're all very well put together. It's typical Madfish. It's just this idea, as you can see here, the discs roll into each other's compartments, so you've got to just be mindful of that. Right, so I'm going to put those to one side now, and let's look at the book. So the book is your typical Madfish one. Let's move some of these cables out of the way, meaning that it's absolutely excellent quality. So all the names of all the gigs are on here, on this side, as you can see. Now I'm going to read some of this out, because not all of it, but just so you got a feel for me, because Gaz Mayall writes a short essay on every single recording in here. And it says that when commencing work with John on the first generation, pre-lockdowns, etc., our task was relatively simple: to produce an early to mid-career defining box set mostly comprised of remastered existing material plus a few extras, all worthy of the Godfather British Blues. And they talk about, how they had to bring that together, and they created with that first generation an amazing set, which many of you who bought it, it's like going on holiday when you take the lid off. You just immerse yourself in an artist that's going to give you years of joy. But this is a very radically different beast. The second generation is a new collection of previously unreleased live concerts featuring sound desk and audience recordings capturing a host of lineups with guitar legends like Mick Taylor, Harvey Mandel, Walter Trout, Coco, Montoya, etc., various drummers and bass players. And it says here, I think this is important to point out, if you're reading this, the chances are that you're more than just a fan. Chances are you may have heard a few of these previously recordings if they've been unofficially available, but you are not just a casual fan. Now, all the royalties are going to go to John's family, and whilst modern technology allows only so much cleaning up to improve these sometimes mediocre recordings, the sound is significantly better than it has ever been. It says, "We won't deny there is a mixed bag on offer. Some CDs here are included for how they sound, some for what was played, some for who was playing, when and where they were playing, but all are included because of what they capture. John Mayall and his various bands of musical excellence, etc. All of it comes packaged in another fine box, this time a little bit more rugged to reflect the nature of the release, with the invaluable input of Russell Beecher and Gaz Mayall." Now, Gaz is John's eldest child and a very versatile musician himself. So I'm saying that because it says here, before I've heard anything, it says the sound is significantly better than it's been, but we won't deny this is a mixed bag, and some of these recordings could be a bit rough around the edges, is what they're saying. So they're included for what they capture, okay? Mostly. So I just wanted to point that out, so that my expectations at the time of doing this part of the review, I don't know what to expect. But I have to say I didn't expect anything to say allows only so much cleaning up these sometimes mediocre recordings, because this is not a cheap set. And those of you who know me know that I am very insensitive to bootlegs. So we'll see what happens when I get to the side. So let's have a look at the book. Some of the colours used on a black background aren't always easy to read, but you've got all the track listings, and some of the workouts here, some of the tracks are 11 minutes, 12 minutes long, so there's lots of jamming going on. Gaz Mayall gives a background to every single gig. In here, some lovely pictures as well. So here we have more recordings, and again, some of them are quite long, 10 minutes, etc. This is it tells you where the venue was when it opened and what the audience capacity was as well, which is interesting in some places, as more people than should have gone in, probably for their fire regulations. So again, Gaz gives an essay on each gig itself. So this one is Chicago, from the venue opened in 1926, the recordings from 1970. Some of the recordings here, again, are quite long, 13 minutes. And off we go. So Gaz gives the overview. We've got lots of pictures. Now, some of them, this one here from Sweden, is a FM broadcast recording from 1972. So I'm presuming the radio broadcasts will probably sound quite professional in the quality of them. But again, at the time when we're doing the unboxing, I haven't played anything. So this is just showing you the booklet. So you've got the idea now. So I'm going to be more quiet now. So just so you can see the track listing, the name of the venue, and Gaz gives a chat on what was going on with the lineup, what it meant in John's career. For example, we're in France, Paris. Now we're in 1980. So again, all the tracks, bit of an overview from Russell, and then Gaz, and then went on to another one. So every single gig has got detailed information. So for a John Mayall super fan, because you've already bought the first box, I don't think you're going to get this box without getting the first box, goes through every single gig. And there's Walter. So I'm really looking forward to playing these, because Walter plays one of my favourite guitarists, so this will be really interesting, going through this section. And now we're in 1988. Then we're back in London. Lots of live pictures. And then we have, once we get past all the gigs, we then have a full list of every single gig that John Mayall played, starting from 1968, with lots of pictures as well. So every gig that they've been able to find, which they probably would have done from the fan club newsletter that was in the first box, going right through, lots of pictures, ticket stubs, memorabilia. Mick Taylor photographs, which I hadn't seen before. Coming right up now to 1989. Make sure I don't miss anything out, for those of you who want me to make sure I don't miss anything out. Coco Montoya, left-handed guitarist with the Strat. And at the very end, we have the credits. Mastering is by Pete Reynolds at Reynolds Mastering. Second generation, 240 tracks, 30 CDs, over 25 hours of music. So that is a look inside the second generation John Mayall Live Magic 1968 to 1993. And now I'm going to talk about the music. So that's a look inside the second generation huge Madfish box set, 30 unreleased CDs, second generation 1968 to 1993. The only thing I forgot to show you was on the back of the box. It also shows you all of the CDs and the concerts, etc. Now, I know that many of you have landed on a few things that I said in that, and I'm just going to reiterate this because I think it's important. It says new collection of previously unreleased live concerts, as I read out before. And if you're reading this, the chances are you're more than just a fan. I would say you're more than just a fan, and more than likely you bought the first generation box set. Now this is a different animal to that first one, which basically pulled together everything that John had done officially during that time. Now, the key thing that you will have noticed I said was these are unofficial recordings. Some of them are, if you like. And it says, whilst modern technology allows only so much cleaning up to improve these sometimes mediocre recordings, the sound is significantly better than it ever has been. We won't deny this is a mixed bag on offer. Some CDs here are included for how they sound, some for what was played, some for who was playing, when and where they were playing, but included for what they capture. Now this says the word mediocre recordings. Now for some of you watching this, that is an alarm bell, isn't it? Because this is not a cheap set. It's closing in on £300. It's all unreleased, and I know a lot of you are really excited about it. Some of you that know me know that I'm not very good with bootlegs. Even though I'm a huge Deep Purple fan, I own hardly any. I've got friends who are really into Led Zeppelin, and they've got tons and tons and tons of live recordings from all over the world, and they just like having them because of the atmosphere. I can't listen to them. You know, my ears are drawn towards things that sound like they were officially recorded and sound good on my system. I don't listen to my system, I listen to music. My system isn't like that high end, it's just average. But obviously if you've got a good stereo system, any misgivings on dodgy recordings are going to sound iffy. It's a bit like years ago I'd listened to Radio Luxembourg under the bed sheets when I should have been revising for my exams, but it was really sound going in and out, but I put up with it because I was so excited. But of course, if you're playing on a small Bluetooth speaker, you can kind of get away with that. But 2 floor standing speakers, what do mediocre recordings sound like? So I did approach this with some trepidation, but I also understood the importance of this with who's on it, especially if you're a fan, of guitarists like Mick Taylor. I mean, Mick played with, if I can just take the lid off again, I probably can't. This is the other thing. The design of this set is it's not the same kind of materials, so it doesn't slide off like an iPhone box, which is what I'm expecting to. Why am I doing this? I'm trying to do this because I put the hype sticker on the inside. It's just easier. Okay. So if I look at actually, again, who's on it, the bass players, John McVie from Fleetwood Mac, Mick Taylor, as I said, Harvey Mandel, Trout, of course. There's so many people. Keith Hartley on drums. This covers so much stuff from 1968. So my feelings were that this was going to be, that the early stuff was going to sound the dodgiest. Not so. But also, the mediocre recordings thing. What are my feelings? Now, I'm going to bring up a photograph. You can see it now. And you can see here, I put the CDs into 3 rows. On the right-hand side were all the CDs that I thought could have easily been official live releases. The ones in the middle are ones that I thought were kind of like FM recordings or just a notch down. Still really easy to listen to. Your ears just adjusted within seconds. The ones on the first column were the ones that were probably closest to what were said as audience recordings, or moving towards that word mediocre, were in my mind bootlegs. I have to say that all the ones in the first column aren't bootlegs as such. They're not. As I've said, I don't listen to bootlegs very well. One of the reasons I've got so many Madfish sets, and the only one of the big ones I don't have really is Caravan. The reason why I left that was because some of the live recordings are very bootleggy, really. Some in the first column there's a tiny bit of distortion, you know what I mean, on these kind of recordings where it's been on cassette tape, or it feels like it's a bit muffled, or it doesn't matter how much you turn it up, you feel like you can never really get close enough to the stage. That is some of those. But some of those recordings, I can see why they're included because of who's on it. Mick Taylor on guitar. Some of them aren't that old. I've got 81, 79. This is the first column I'm looking through now. Some of a trio. Trout, who's on fire on a lot of these things. You imagine Mick Taylor and Trout on the same gigs. Some of the tracks are really heavily improvised, fantastic stuff. I found some of those, and these are some of them, trickier to dive into initially, and it made me think: are these recordings that I'm going to listen to that often? My ears are acclimatized to things that I just like the sound of. I like good sound, I like CDs, and I like music to sound as good as it's going to possibly sound. That's just me. The middle ones I adjusted really quickly, and again, some of these concerts are, an hour and a half, 2 hours long. I'm not overly in love with the colour and the packaging, the type of card. And you saw when I did the unboxing, the fact that when you open the gatefolds, the CDs slide from one side to the other, and of course when you turn the like I just did then, I hold the cases on one side, the CDs fall out straight away. So they're not a tight fit like some of these things can. But Madfish usually put discs in a sleeve. It's just part of that extra bit that they did. And on this, they haven't. I guess trying to feel the more rustic feel of the box set, really. And then, of course, you've got all these ones which sound like official releases. It's packed full of music, hours and hours of music. So if you're new to John Mayall, this is not where you're going to start. This is a limited edition. This has its coordinates based on a certain person, and you are a John Mayall Uber fan. I would say that more than likely you bought the first generation box set. More than likely. And you love that. And you played it all. You've gone through every disc, and you just love it. And so you are excited about this. You're excited about this because of the lineup of the artists, and the performances, and the historical data, and and again the typical Madfish book. And I don't feel at all that Madfish are in any way kind of just doing this for the money. The money is going, the royalties are going to the Mayall family. John Mayall was involved before he passed away, sadly. He was involved in this. He wanted this to come out. His oldest son is involved in this, in writing some of the notes. That you can tell from the essays for each gig that there's a lot of love has been put into this. It's just that you are buying into something where some of the recordings are not pristine. They're not really rough bootlegs that you can only listen to once. I mean, a good example of this, actually, because we are moving into a world where there isn't a lot left in the archives of many big artists. And so what is left is kind of like FM recordings or audience recordings, or someone put a tiny cassette player with a mono microphone at the back of stage behind the drummer and recorded it. And then someone said later on, do you think we should include that for historical reasons in that box set? Cherry Red do this. I bought quite a few box sets recently from Cherry Red where the live disc has been literally a mono microphone audience recording, and it sounds like it's been recorded under a blanket and with wow and flutter and distortion on the drums, and the vocals are all over the shop or whatever. None of these are like that. Okay? They're just professional. Really sounds like if this came out as an official live recording, it would be there. Then I've got my row in the middle, which is kind of touch and go, whether some of them cross over, and then in the first column where they're definitely not quite as good as the column 3, but some of those are probably, the more I listen to them, might end up in column 2. So I'm just being, really honest with you. But those of you who know some of these recordings, and I know some of you do, they will sound better than what you've known before. And that is probably the key thing. Could this have been done any differently? And again, this is just my observations, because that's my job, isn't it? Thinking that none of them are official recordings as such. They're all unreleased, they're all live, and they all have the same covers and section. It comes in a giant box, and it's quite expensive. Perhaps it could have been done in this kind of design, this is a Herbie Hancock thing, but just all of the same discs and a smaller booklet. Maybe that would have changed the cost. But then, of course, it would have been a different shape. Although it is a thinner box than the first one, it is the same size. So if those of you who really enjoyed the first generation box set, this will sit next to it quite neatly. So those are my thoughts, really. And I, as I've said, some of you, and I've said this is going to be designed for those of you who bought this. And I know loads of people bought it in the Facebook group and on the WhatsApp group for Now Spinning Magazine, and many of you really, really enjoyed it. And the price has fluctuated on that first generation set quite dramatically in places. I don't know how many of these there are. I imagine there's probably slightly less, or I say slightly less than the first box, because it's going to have a more of a niche market for people who already fans of John Mayall, and you're thinking about this is going to be great because of the historical nature of Keith Hartley, Mick Taylor, really blowing in through the 70s and the 80s, and of course Walter Trout as well. I mean, there are some absolutely stunning performances from all of the musicians involved here, and this covers such a huge period up till 1993. So it's not an exploitation affair. John Mayall wanted this to come out. His family are involved. They are going to be rewarded for this as well. The booklet is typical Madfish. It's just where it says the recordings are mediocre, I think they're kind of managing your expectations, because with me, I just thought, oh my God, this isn't the kind of thing I can usually tolerate. But none of them came close to some of those, as I said, Cherry Red recent live stuff as extras, and it wasn't bootleg stuff. But obviously there is a difference to what sounds like an official live recording. The middle ones, which sound okay, like FM recordings, you know, those grey releases you see all over the place, and my first batch are the ones that's obviously our audience recording, and it's for the historical reasons that they are included. But I would say you can hear the performances. You can. There is enough separation for you to work out what's going on, and the book is great. So I just wanted you to see that. And if you are a John Mayall fan and you love the first one, you're going to be tempted. But I just wanted you to give you an honest overview. Madfish, I think, are still one of the only labels that think through the eyes of a fan at this level. Their box sets are not cheap, they are expensive, but they're limited, and they're quite patient to sit there wherever they have their warehouse, and they slowly disappear off the shelves. So if you are a fan, you know, give it some thought. But if you're not, this is not the place to start. You know, go and stream some of the classic albums that John Mayall played on, and get a feel first of all. And this is, as I say, this is, as it says in the book, if you're more than just a fan, if you're looking at this. For me, I'm being pleasantly surprised in that I was worried when I was doing the unboxing and I read that for the first time. But the only thing you can do is trust your own ears. So if you can listen to some of it elsewhere, then do so. But you know what to expect from Madfish. I would have just thought maybe a different shape box could have changed the price structure or something. As I've said before, I don't want to keep going on about this, but it's actually, at the moment, it's more expensive than the first generation set. You could say, well, that's because that's all stuff that most people may have got, and this is completely unreleased. There is that as well. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Let me know what you think. Obviously, you won't have got it yet, so let me know if you're thinking of getting it, if this has helped. If you've got any other questions about this that I haven't covered in this review, then email me or let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. If you want to know about anything particular, I'll do my best to get back to you. So remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Please take care and keep spinning those discs. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that little bell so you don't miss out on any future videos or reviews or features. And if you become a Patron or YouTube member, you'll get invited to our own private Facebook group, which is full of like-minded people from all around the world who collect CDs and vinyl. Plus, we have a series of WhatsApp groups, all private, which you can join. And we have a meetup at our own private pub called the Now Spinning Arms. So take care, all of you, and I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.